Sophia, then we were talking about like that blend when you're dating someone or you're in a relationship, that blend between combining each other but respecting each other's individuality.
Yes.
Which is the toughest thing to do, right?
It is.
And I know for me personally, because I value individuality so much, that's almost the way I show that I care. I'm like, whatever you had going on prior to me, I want you to keep that as close to you as possible. Look, you know we're going to get a good workout
yes.
How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Yes.
Work, life, everything moving?
Everything is good. Everything is good. How are you doing?
Good, man. You know, we've been sitting here trying to bring good conversations out to people, and you know I had to hit you up because during a lot of our sessions, you know, we get into a lot of good topics.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So I was like, let me hit up E so we can go through a few things, you know?
We have a few things to catch up on.
Yeah. We won't get into your views on Alicia Keys, all right? Because then we're gonna start a whole debate right now, okay?
I agree because I don't think it would go well. I think your feelings will be hurt. So I agree. I think we should leave that off the table.
Yeah. So today, what I really want to get into is us talking about, because we have both of us come from like big groups of friends, family, and then even with your work, it's like you're working with different groups of people, things like that. And we get to see relationships in so many different levels, and then including our personal lives and professionally. I really kind of want to get into what we think a healthy relationship looks like, right? But before that, let me break down what we're going to be doing for a workout. Okay. So I'll show you what I'm going to do with my kettlebell, and then you can choose whatever kettlebell you're going to work with. So first exercise we're going to be doing is one-arm deadlifts, what we have here, and we'll drive the butt back with the kettlebell. We'll do 10 on the right side, 10 on the left side. Then we're going to go deadlift, press up. We'll get 10 of those. After that, we're going to go kettlebell swings for 10. And then we're going to hold the kettlebell up and go kettlebell squats. Okay? Each one will be 10, and we're going to go through each circuit.
Okay.
So I'm going to start the clock. You choose which kettle you're going to work with.
Okay.
And then we're going to get into it.
Warm up.
Good, got
Which
your kettle?
one do you have?
I got a 30.
Oh, okay. Okay, we'll sit.
Yeah, we can put that down. We're going to start with the warm-up. So for our warm-up, we're going to start off standing adductor stretch. So we're going to go side to side. So, you know, with us, we always getting first. I want to apologize and say I'm sorry for your alma mater and how they did in the NCAA tournament. Okay. And I knew that you were very...
Okay, bye.
Wait.
Yeah, see, even the mic didn't like how this is starting.
So the mic went down.
The mic was like, you know what, no.
The mic was like, you better come back.
We don't need this negativity. So like, Howard University made it to the NCAA championship.
Right.
And that is a huge accomplishment. And guess what? We're going to go even further next year. So we will take no Howard University slander. The best university ever.
We'll go on the mat and then we'll hold hip flexors. Yeah. I mean, an amazing university.
Yes.
That's your alma mater, and we'll go back. So we'll go forward and back. Yeah. I mean, that's your alma mater, and I think they produce some of the most beautiful, educated black minds that we have today. And their athletic program is escalating, elevating, and some good things are coming from the athletic program in addition to all the brilliant minds that... Right. The brilliant minds and Puffy. Puffy went to Howard, right? Puffy went to Howard?
Puffy did.
Yeah.
Debbie Allen.
Which NBA player went to Howard again? Or maybe. Oh, I mean,
Well, which future NBA player?
Right.
Listen. For historical context, this is a conversation that we've had. But can we just give a shout out
for making the tournament?
For making the tournament. And we are
feet.
predicting next year that they are going to get to the Final Four. Okay?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. And now we have this actually on record. So what I'm going to do is next year play it on loop. Next year, the Final Four. It'll be fun.
Mark my word.
So this reminds me, and this, so you heard, and I'm just like kind of, what I need to do a better job of is staying abreast of some of these current events, but because sometimes they come and go, and I don't really get the full news. Mm-hmm. But the Montgomery, what are they calling it? I was talking to my daughter the other day, and she called it the Sweet Tea Party.
The Sweet Tea Party.
Sweet Tea Party.
The battle at Montgomery.
I haven't heard that one.
The battle at Montgomery. That's what I say.
That is hilarious.
I think there's so many. I feel like it could even be considered a spiritual thing, because when you think about where that occurred, the water, that whole, the riverfront is the exact place where actual slave trading occurred.
Oh, wow.
And think about how many
serious?
people.
I didn't know that.
No, seriously.
Wow.
And the name of that boat was Harriet.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Get out of here.
And so to see that, it almost like to see that young man jump off the boat and swim to try to help dude, his colleague. It was like, you had to think like the ancestors helped him get across there and propped him. Not only did he get up.
I had read one meme where it, I got you. Yeah?
You got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I read one meme where it said, old boy didn't even know how to swim.
Listen.
That he just jumped in the water and the ancestors carried him the rest
Carried
of the way.
him. And then not only did he swim, because we know how much physical fortitude it takes to swim.
Yes, right.
But then also lung capacity. We're talking about lung capacity. Then we're talking about propping himself up off the deck. And then shaking off for a quick second, and then he goes and body slams, dude. So it's like...
We'll go here. Right, all that after swimming.
Right.
Like, that's the crazy part.
Right. But I think, of course we don't condone violence at all, but in this situation...
And we get deadlift.
It was also, they were defense. It was self-defense.
So, right. And, I mean... So I don't know, I know what I've heard secondhand, and I've read little like bites, but I don't know the story in its entirety. So I guess for everybody listening, and even partially for myself, what is the story of what happened, where it happened, and why it attracted so much attention?
So initially, it started out like when I was introduced to it, at first, I kept turning away from it because I was like, I don't want to see videos of people fighting. Like, I don't understand why this is becoming viral. But then when I learned more about it, where the man, our brother's doing his job, there was a larger boat. Okay. There was the river boat called Harriet.
Okay. So there was
that was trying to dock.
A black man trying to do his job.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Trying to dock where the small little boat was. That was primarily Caucasian people, and he was trying to tell them to move. Apparently, they had been trying to tell them to move for at least 45 minutes.
Oh, okay.
So it wasn't like...
So he was a security guard. He was trying to tell them to
he
move.
was actually a guard. No, he wasn't a guard. He like worked on the boat. Okay. And so he had taken a small ferry to try to tell them, like, hey, we're trying to dock here. This is where we're supposed to be docking, and you all are blocking us. And then they said, well, no, we want to stay here. Okay. And swings. Yeah. I like swings. I probably could have gone with a heavier one for this.
That's all right. We got a few more rounds to go. So we good.
Jyim knows me. I like to. Sometimes I get a little too ambitious, and then I end up.
That's how you came out. Look, I'm gonna pace myself for this one.
And then I end up regretting it.
And then we'll go squats 10.
Okay. So he tried. You can see, and I'm so glad it's on camera where he is trying to talk them through, like, hey, just move.
Right.
But then at one point, he's like, his gestures, like when black folks start clapping as they talk, that means they're trying to.
Something. I done told you to move
right,
3 or 4 times, you're not listening. So now I gotta elevate my tone.
Right. And then they start attacking him.
Bring this up a little bit.
Oh.
Okay. So that's when you get the video.
So you have one guy.
Because he said, let's move, and then they come out, and that's when you see
But
the
he
video.
says, let's move several times. Like you can see the gestures.
Right.
And then one guy comes out and starts bang, and then they all just kind of come in. And then when the first guy hits the first punch, that's when he throws up the cap.
There's a hat in there. That's what I seen him in.
And that was the signal for everyone. That was like the Avengers. The Avengers call. And they came from high water, land. You know that Olita Adams song? Do you know that's what? You probably don't know. It's R&B. You can reach me by railway. Reach me by railway. Okay.
That's funny. They started coming out. What I think anybody who probably doesn't understand the amount of like connection that black people have with this incident. It's because we see these incidents so many times and they never end in our favor.
Exactly.
Right? And it's also an incident where it was justifiable self-defense, right?
Right.
Because if those people didn't come, they had him on the ground and they were stomping him and they weren't stopping.
And how many times have we seen instances where that resulted in a black man's death?
Death, right? So it was almost like in that moment, we have this one moment in time where people like, not today.
Right.
Like, not today, and it's caught on film. So what happens a lot of times, so even if it doesn't result in a black man dying or a black man getting hurt, it does result in a black man being vilified.
Right.
And then further contributing to black men being demonized, dehumanized, all those things, because they're like, oh, all these people just went and beat up these white people for no reason, right? So just for this incident to happen, have it be on film, have it be fully justified, and then to have everybody come together just to defend this one man who was doing his job. It's like the perfect blend of situations.
Right. Every time I see that video of a young man swimming across, like it almost gets me emotional. I'm like, that's how much we are connected in our community. Like we will come together. Yeah. It keeps falling off.
Yeah, I should. Just go. Something happens all the time. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, and it's true, and then also too, and I didn't even think about that part, Eve, is in our communities, a lot of times you see us fighting with each other, right? Like how many? We have a bunch of scenarios where you have black men either shooting each other, fighting with each other. So just even that in itself, it's like all of us just coming together in that moment in time and just saying we're not even each other's enemies. Right. And
Absolutely.
Also even bringing it back full circle, I don't want anybody to take it as a way to separate from white people, because one cool meme I saw was some black and white people reenacted the whole thing. It's actually hilarious. So you can tell they must have been friends and came together.
Right.
And I would hope that if we saw a situation where another culture was able to stand up for themselves, we would champion that as well, right? So it's just in this particular instance, it's like, okay, this is black people finally standing up for themselves in a situation, which is cool. Cool. So, and then now this brings me to what I really wanted to get into is growing up, I think we get to see so many different dynamics, whether it's romantic relationships, whether it's relationships between, cousins, uncles, aunts. if you had to define, let's give like 2 to 3 criteria, right? You know we like breaking things down, especially when we go over the Nas album. All right, this Nas album dope. What is the criteria for this album, right? But what would you give 2 to 3 criteria? And I know there's more of what makes a healthy relationship, friendship, romantic relationship, family relationship.
Healthy relationship. So I think a main one is mutual respect. Mutual respect is very important.
Okay.
Second is empathy.
Empathy.
I think empathy is underrated, but it's so important, and I just feel like it's not addressed enough, like the importance of empathy. And let's see, another one is healthy relationships, ability to set boundaries and respect boundaries.
Wow, I love that. We'll go back to the deadlifts. So I want to work in reverse.
Okay.
Boundaries. I've spoken about boundaries a lot of different times because I think that's one of the most undervalued behavior traits that, or even actions within communication.
Yes.
Meaning that our ability to tell a close friend or family member when something's hurting us, when something's bothering us, or when we just don't like something, and then their ability to receive it. Right? Like that's the biggest part, because what people don't realize is you have to make room in order for a person to feel comfortable setting their boundaries.
Yes.
And I know, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I know, we'll go here on the side. I know that sometimes it can hurt, right? When somebody sets a boundary on you, and I think we've all had it and we've all done it, where it's like, hey, you know what? Could you please not bother me right now? I'm tired. Or it's like, it's up to us to understand, hey, they're just communicating something I wasn't aware of.
Right.
So I have to respect that.
Right.
Can you think of any times with a close friend or family member, and you ain't got to say names, where you've had to set a boundary and it was difficult, like you had to process how you were going to set it?
So I think that it gets tough. I think, and this is where we have problems because, for instance, I'll give an example. So family members, I won't specify, but with family, I think it can get difficult because, even like parental-child relationship, you were raised to respect and always, respect and just make sure that you do what you're told, and
right.
You do whatever you can. But then there are sometimes when you're extending yourself so much, especially in adulthood, where I can't do it all.
Right.
Like I can't be everything to everyone.
Right.
Especially if you're like a giving person, you're giving of your time, depending on your job demands. You literally can't be everything to everyone. So then learning to say no, no, I'm not going to be able to do that. I struggled with that.
Wow.
I struggled with that. And I mean, it's easier now.
With close family members because you want to be there for them.
Because you want to be there for them. And, for the longest, that was part of what I, really valued was, being able to be helpful and be a resource for family members, for church family, for friends, especially in my role as a physician. A lot of people would reach out to me for medical advice or for, or for, resources, for mental health resources and things like that, which I'm happy to provide. But then, it can get, sometimes it can get to be a lot where, especially when you're in a position of service as part of your job, of service to other people, but then also you want to be everything to people who have always been there for you, but then that leads to, what we call burnout these days.
Right.
Where you're burned out and then you're not able to be of service to anybody.
Right. We only have a certain amount of energy.
Exactly.
No matter how hard we try.
Exactly. So learning having the courage to have those conversations, I think, is the first step. And then hopefully it's received in a positive way. And then having the courage to ask for help.
Right.
Ask for help in ways that can happen, and then, that I think that can be helpful, and that can save relationships. The quality of my relationships has actually improved because I have help in ways that there are able to be help, but then I'm able to spend more quality time with loved ones. So
there's I like courage. Right? And I think it's that moment when somebody that we want to be there for.
Yes.
And I think that's the key thing, right? Where it's like, it's not somebody that's calling us and we're like, I don't want to do it. That makes it a lot easier. When it's somebody who we want to be there for, and then they ask us for something that we just don't have the ability to do.
Right.
And that having the courage to have that conversation is always difficult.
Right.
I remember talking to my daughter one time, and she was talking about, she was speaking with a counselor, and the counselor taught her about setting boundaries. So she called me up. She's like, hey, Dad, I learned about setting boundaries. She's like, I can't wait to start setting boundaries. So I'm like, listen, it's not going to go smoothly.
Right.
First of all, you're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to try to communicate it. They're not going to understand.
Right.
And then you're going to continue to try to communicate it, and it's going to draw a further divide. Right. So it's us like having the courage to understand it's going to be uncomfortable, but in the long run, it'll kind of get there. And I know what I try to do is I always try to offer like, hey, sorry, I can't, my bad, but I'll make sure that I get back to you at a time that I can. To let them know I'm not fully abandoning them. Right. And then hopefully they understand.
Hopefully.
Then I'm trying to remember what you said for number 2. So you said,
what did I say? I said boundaries, respect, empathy. So empathy.
I wanted to talk about empathy.
Yes,
so what do you, because when you said empathy, so many different things came to mind, but particularly, how would you define empathy within the context of like a close relationship dynamic?
So I think that this is what gets a lot of people in trouble is, like, for instance, if there's a conflict, having empathy can help. Having empathy at the beginning can help because you're putting yourself in that person's shoes and trying to understand maybe there's a reason why they didn't respond to my texts immediately, or maybe there's a reason why they were in it, because maybe that's something they're going through. Maybe they're to try to understand instead of just automatically assuming
or personalizing
or taking things personal. Maybe it's not about me. Maybe that how they acted in that situation is not about me. Maybe it's something that's going on. So starting out with that, then it's not easy, of course, but because sometimes that can lead to maybe accepting or apologizing for what are we doing? Sorry.
On deadlifts. So. Okay. Yes, you're saying like in those moments, even if you're the one that needs to show the empathy, it may take you like taking a step back.
Right. And but on both sides though, because like let's say I'm the person that that maybe didn't respond to a text message or something, and somebody's mad at me, and I also need to understand that this person. I also need to understand that try to understand where they're coming from if they like have an attitude with me, or So I mean that's a simple example, but I feel like having empathy it's just really like saying to myself, what could be going on in this person's life
that I'm unaware
of, like what battle might they be fighting that contributed to the behavior that they just displayed that may not be about me, but maybe. So then we, you can start a conversation off as, are you okay? Before you go in on somebody, like, why didn't you respond to my text message? I'm mad at you.
You know those calls.
Right.
And it's funny because I've been on the receiving end, right? And this, especially being in the service industry, right? So we're dealing with people all day. We're talking, dealing with people, right? And then we'll go swings next. So there's certain times at the end of the day, the last thing I want to do is respond to anyone. Because
I've been messaging people all day, checking in on people all day, and now it's like, now you're sending me a message, and trust me, with close friends or family, I want you to reach out if you have an issue.
Right.
So it could be the end of the day and somebody's like, hey, I was having trouble with this. Could you help me? And I'm like, oh God, I can't really get to this right now. And you feel bad already because you can't. And then even if you say you'll get to them the next day or whatever, it's like, oh, why you didn't respond to my texts? It's like, oh, I just didn't want to pick up my phone for that minute and we'll go squat. Which I think should be added is sometimes having empathy just for life in general. The person may not have anything going on other than wanting to have silence for a little while.
Right.
And we have to, I think, learn to respect that and learn to communicate it as well so the person has an understanding of who we are.
Right.
Right? A little workout, be serious, huh? Get two more. 2 and 1. I really liked empathy. And then the first one was respect.
Respect.
Okay, respect. And we're always talking within the context of being close to someone. Mm-hmm. How would you define respect within friends, family, partner?
Ooh, okay, so I think that, so I think, honestly, I feel like respect and empathy kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
Because it takes understanding, or making an effort to understand. So making an effort to understand who this person is and what their responsibilities are, what they're doing, and then, giving them space to do what they need to do in order to be successful, or giving them, displaying kindness.
I like the space part, right? Like respecting someone's space to be able to at least be themselves, right?
Which I think is so important in relationships.
Yes.
So
yes. It was funny. I was talking to Sophia. Then we were talking about like that blend when you're dating someone or you're in a relationship. That blend between combining each other but respecting each other's individuality.
Yes.
Which is the
toughest
thing to do, right?
It is.
And I know for me personally, because I value individuality so much, that's almost the way I show that I care. I'm like, whatever you had going on prior to me, I want you to keep that as close to you as possible. That's me respecting you as an individual, me respecting your space, me respecting whatever dynamic you have in terms of friendships, family. So it's like, if you used to talk to your sister for 2 hours every Sunday, I'm not gonna walk in and be like, this is our time now. I'm like, talk to your, go, right? If you used to go out with your mom, keep all that up, right? Because I think it's very difficult, especially within the context of a relationship, to respect someone's individuality.
Right. And then the thing is, like, thinking about the things that attracted you to that person are things that make them an individual. And so then what happens often is, as relationships progress, dynamics change where you also want that person to change. And then you're wanting that person to change the things that attracted you to them. And then it's just like...
It's this whole weird blend that comes on.
Right. And then I feel like then respect starts to kind of dwindle in some ways, because it's like you're no longer respecting the things that were initially very, you were attracted to.
You were attracted to. Like, I think, like, one example to highlight is, like, you meet somebody that works out all the time and always in a good mood, right? Then you get with them and they're like, do you always have to go work out? So yeah, that's why, that's the whole connection, you know what I mean? And it could be that with so many other different situations, you know? Yeah. It's our last round now.
Okay.
Last round.
Let's go.
So yeah, I think respect is huge. What you brought up earlier that is, I think, always very important is like the elders within our family, right?
Yes.
Because they're used to a dynamic when they told you something, whether it's uncles, aunts, parents, whatever it is, older brothers, sisters, whatever, they're very used to a dynamic where they tell you something and that's what it is.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think even for myself, what I like to do is anytime I highlight something for other people, sometimes I want to look for it within myself. For me, I have a younger brother, and as he got older, to the other side, I had to learn the transition from you ain't little brother no more. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where I'm always like, look, just do this, just do that. And I think it was probably the time when he hit like 16, 17, where he was like, no. And I was like, oh, and it took me a little while to realize, no, he's his own man now. And I think that within relationships with elders on both parties, the one who is the older one realizing that this person is now becoming their own adult, and then the adult, they're starting to become adult, communicate that one to the elders.
Right. And then, that's a good point. But then also another challenge with the whole respect thing is I do think that not the definition of respect, but the context of respect starts to change with aging parents, where we were raised to always do always respect your elders and always do what mom and dad says, follow their rules. So if mom and dad say this, that's law, right? But then what I found is that, as they start aging more and, having more health needs and health challenges, that a real huge challenge became, sometimes I'm gonna have to step up and actually make a decision that you don't like. And that's for your health, as their autonomy starts to decrease and their ability to do things for themselves starts to decrease. And they, they're needing more help, but not really knowing they need more help.
Right.
What I found myself doing, and it was a very huge conflict at first for me. It was not comfortable, but having to say, no, you can't drive, actually. No, I'm gonna have to take your driver's license because you're not able to drive anymore.
Right.
No, you
That's
can't.
such a switch.
So it's almost like I had a lot of guilt at first because, I'm supposed to be respectful and do what they say, but at the same time, the definition of respect is kind of changing because I respect and love you so much, I know that this is not healthy for you, and I have to take this away from you.
Yeah.
So then it's like the roles switch, and the definition of respect starts to kind of change a little bit.
But now you're highlighting something to me that's brilliant in the sense where just because we've because we've now understood a definition of a particular dynamic between two people, that definition may change, or the way it looks may change.
Exactly.
Which takes constant communication.
Yes.
Constant, which underlying everything, in order to navigate empathy and respect and boundaries, all those things, you gotta constantly just talk to each other and be open to listening as well. It's funny, me and my mom have this joke. She's always like, when I get older, I come in to live with you. And I'm like, Mom, you remember when I was younger and you didn't let me eat all my food? You didn't. No, I said you made me eat all my food before I could drink my juice. So I had to eat all my vegetables, and then she would put the juice right there, and I couldn't have none of my juice. And I loved orange juice as a kid. So I had to finish all my food, all my vegetables, then I could have the juice. I said, I'm gonna do that to you. She said, no. I said, I'm gonna put your juice just out of your reach, and I'm gonna stand over you and say, until you eat all your vegetables. She's like, no, you wouldn't. I said, I would. That's our way of like joking. It's like how the dynamic will change. You know what I mean?
And it does.
It's funny too. I'm a big proponent of communication, and that we sometimes have to understand that we don't understand, right? So I had a client that I've been working with this dude for maybe like 6 years now, and we do a lot of boxing. And in addition to the boxing, we have a lot of talks conceptually about its relation to life and things like that. So there was one concept that he just wasn't grasping in boxing over the years, and I'm talking about we went back and forth. Times when he would leave the session and he was annoyed, right? And it was just about, but at no point did it ever become disrespectful. We accepted the fact that we were both annoyed at the moment. And then I want to say it was just last week that it's like 3 years of back and forth, we understood where we were missing each other. Now, this is two people who listen to each other, two people who are not bringing their we were still missing each other. So imagine if you're not listening.
Right.
How difficult it is, right? Imagine if you're not taking the time to communicate, how difficult it is. We're stretching out.
Okay.
That's why I think that communication is like insanely important.
So important. But even in the communication, like communicating, humility is super important in communication. That's another thing I meant to. Humility is important because the thing is, sometimes in communication, we're communicating with, what am I doing? Sometimes in communication, we're communicating with the intention of, I need to get my point across.
How true is that?
I need to get my point across.
They're going to hear this.
And so sometimes even with attempts to communicate, it fails because we're going into it with, I need to get my point across, but we really need to go into communication with, again, humility. So I would like to get my point across, but also I really want to hear what this person is saying and try to understanding what. Oh.
Yeah, sorry. You know what I like to do anytime I'm in the middle of a disagreement with somebody close is I always set, there's always that time when you're going to talk, right?
Right.
I always set it in my mind that it's going to be at least two parts. Meaning, the first time we communicate, I'm not even saying anything. I just want to fully understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
Maybe I'll be able to respond in that moment. Maybe I'll need a day or two, right? Right up to the feet. So what I like to do is set the tone and say, you know what? I need to know where I'm missing you. I need you to just lay everything out. Tell me how you got to the space where we disagree. Tell me how you feel like I'm wrong. Tell me how you feel like I could have done better. And I just want to listen, whether it takes an hour, 2 hours. And it's not listening to combat or come back and respond. It's listening where I'll be, okay, let me repeat that back to you. And then in that moment, I may have the answers. I'm like, oh, well, when you thought it's because of this, right?
Right.
Once I grab that, then I'm able to come back and be like, okay, well, this is how I feel, right? But first, I can't respond to anything that I don't understand,
That is so true. That is so true.
It's funny, I think I've told this story before, that my college roommate, he was a huge Nelly fan, right? And I didn't like Nelly. I wasn't a fan of Nelly, right? Okay. So every time Nelly would come, like, yo, turn that off, B. Like, come on, man, you know this whack, it's terrible, right? So we all used to like say different lyrics while we was in, like, walking around the apartment, like, oh, who's that? Oh, that's Nas. Or who's that? Oh, that's Big, whatever, right? So one day I walk in, he's saying a verse, and I was like, oh, who's that? He's like, Nelly, you just thought it was dope, didn't you? And I was like, I thought, good one. And what I realized was I was saying I didn't like Nelly, but I never really listened to him. I had never really listened to him. Maybe I didn't like the tone of the record, and then we'll go, rotations. Maybe I didn't like the tone of it, whatever it is. I couldn't tell you 2 Nelly bars, but here I am talking about, I don't like Nelly. You know what I mean? So I took that little thing, because I always dive into these huge holes after something connects with me. I was like, how many times do we disagree with someone that we're close with, that we love, and we don't even know what we're disagreeing with?
Right,
you know
right.
What I mean?
Because we didn't take the time to, because, we have conflict. It's our nature almost to kind of have conflict with things we don't understand.
Right.
And so if we don't take the time to understand, and that's a part of respect as well. Because if I respect you, I'm going to try to understand, take time to learn you, try to understand what what ticks you, what are good things, what are some things, what are your quirks, I'm going to take time to understand all of that and find ways to make things work. I feel like that's a big part of respect as well.
Huge. Well, we are done.
We're done.
We knocked it out. We did 4 rounds of that.
4 rounds. So
4
that's
rounds. And that was cool. That for anybody that doesn't know, we started at 7:00 this morning.
and now you have your workout for the day.
I have my whole day left. Start early, y'all.
Start early. Well, I appreciate you coming by.
Oh, it was my pleasure.